Feeling invisible after 60? Here's how to make them notice you again. Have you ever walked into a room full of younger people, your own children, maybe even your grandchildren, and suddenly felt like the furniture? Like you're there physically, but no one really sees you. Maybe they smile politely. Maybe they nod when you speak. But deep down, you feel invisible. Not out of spite, not because anyone meant harm. It's just that somehow, somewhere along the line, the world started moving on without checking if you were still keeping up. It's a quiet kind of loneliness, not the kind that hits you all at once, like a tidal wave, but more like a slow drip. You notice the phone doesn't ring as often. Fewer people ask for your advice. Conversations start to feel more one-sided. You offer a story, a memory, something important to you, and you're met with glazed eyes or a quick change of subject. And it leaves you wondering, did I stop mattering? When did I stop mattering? If this sounds familiar, I want you to know you're not alone. And more importantly, there is nothing wrong with you for feeling this way. In fact, feeling left out after 60 is something many people experience, even if they don't always talk about it. Our roles shift, our routines change, and society often seems to place more value on speed, youth, and trendiness than on wisdom, patience, and perspective. But here's the good news. Just because the world changes doesn't mean you have to disappear. You still matter. Your voice, your presence, your experiences, they still count. And today we're going to talk about how to reclaim that sense of being seen, heard, and respected again. Let's begin with something that's both simple and powerful. Speaking up, even when it feels easier to stay quiet. You might be thinking, I've always been the peacemaker. I don't want to cause waves, I just want harmony. And that's admirable, but over time, always keeping the peace by holding back your thoughts can create a kind of internal erosion. You start to feel overlooked, not because others don't care, but because they've come to assume you're fine with staying in the background. Let me share a story. A friend of mine, Carol, is 72. She told me how during family dinners, her son and daughter-in-law would do all the talking. Every time she tried to join the conversation, they'd smile and nod, but quickly return to their own rhythm. She started to feel like a guest in her own family. But one day she gently said, I'd really love to share something too. I miss being part of the talk. That small sentence changed everything. Not only did it open the door for her voice again, but it reminded her family that her stories mattered too. Speaking up doesn't have to mean arguing or demanding attention. It simply means choosing to show up fully. Your thoughts, your memories, your humor, you're you. You might be surprised how often people don't realize they're excluding you until you remind them, kindly but clearly, that you have something worth hearing. Now let's talk about connection, true connection, the kind that doesn't rely on being invited, but that you can create on your own terms. One of the biggest myths about aging is that social circles naturally shrink and there's nothing you can do about it. That may be true to some extent. People move, relationships change, but that doesn't mean you have to be isolated. In fact, now might be the perfect time to redefine who you spend time with and how you spend it. Sometimes reconnecting with people isn't about waiting for the invitation. It's about extending one. Reach out to that old friend you haven't seen in years. Join a local group that aligns with something you actually enjoy, not just one that's for seniors, but one that makes you feel alive. Maybe it's a gardening club. Maybe it's a community theater. Maybe it's an online book discussion group. The point is, connection doesn't have to look the way it used to. It just has to be real. A man I know named Harold, who's 68, joined a beginner's watercolor class last fall, not because he wanted to become an artist, but because he liked the idea of trying something new. He ended up making 3 new friends, one of whom now meets him every Thursday morning for coffee and a chat. He told me, it's not about painting, it's about being part of something again. When we put ourselves in spaces where we're likely to be appreciated, not just tolerated, we start to feel seen again. And that feeling can breathe life into parts of us that we didn't even realize had been quiet for so long. But of course, connection goes both ways. Sometimes we want others to notice us, but we've stopped showing curiosity about them. It's not always easy, especially when you feel overlooked, to stay interested in people who don't seem interested in you. But making someone else feel heard, genuinely heard, often opens the door for mutual respect. Ask your grandkids about their favorite music and actually listen. Ask your neighbor what's been keeping them busy lately. And then, share something about yourself too. Real connection is a two-way street, and when you model that kind of open-heartedness, you give others permission to do the same. So many of us grew up believing that respect is something you earn once, and then it sticks with you. But in truth, respect, like love, like trust, is built over time, and sometimes needs to be rebuilt. That's okay. It doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. The most powerful thing you can do is to keep showing up, keep sharing, keep choosing presence over silence, connection over isolation, and courage over comfort. And now that we've opened the door to speaking up and reconnecting in ways that feel authentic, let's keep this momentum going. It's amazing what changes when you begin showing up again, for yourself, for your relationships, and for the moments that make you feel alive. But as you begin to reclaim that space in the world, you might notice something else. There are times when the silence isn't just from others, it's from within. You start to wonder if maybe you've stopped believing that you deserve to be heard. That's when the next step becomes crucial, rebuilding self-worth from the inside out. Let's be honest, when you've spent years putting others first, working hard, raising kids, supporting your family, or simply trying to keep it together, it's easy to forget how to value yourself without external validation. You might not even notice it at first. It's subtle. You stop dressing up like you used to. You pass up chances to speak your mind. You make yourself small in conversations because you don't want to be a burden. But let me tell you something. Shrinking yourself doesn't make people love you more. It just makes you disappear. And you deserve better than that. Sometimes to feel seen again by others, we have to start by seeing ourselves clearly, without guilt, without comparison, and without waiting for permission. What have you been through? What have you overcome? What knowledge do you carry that no one else quite understands the same way you do? That matters. Start simple. Look in the mirror each morning and remind yourself, I am still here. I still matter. It might feel silly at first, but over time, that daily reminder plants something powerful in you. It reminds you that being seen doesn't begin with someone else's gaze. It begins with your own. I remember a woman named Jean, 74 years old, who used to be a teacher. After retiring, she said she started to feel like her identity just evaporated. No one called her Miss Jean anymore. She wasn't standing in front of a class. She felt invisible. One day, she decided to volunteer at a local after-school reading program. Not because she wanted to be a teacher again, but because she missed being valuable. What happened next was beautiful. The kids loved her. The other volunteers admired her calm presence. And most importantly, Jean began to recognize herself again. Not as a retired person, but as someone still contributing, still needed. That's the key. Value doesn't expire. Purpose doesn't retire. And identity doesn't fade unless we let it. So ask yourself, what brings you joy? What makes you feel useful? And what's one small way you can lean into that this week? It could be writing a letter, baking for a neighbor, mentoring someone younger, or even just speaking kindness into someone's day. When you pour even a little bit of that energy out into the world, it comes back to you, often in ways you never expected. And speaking of energy, here's another truth we often don't talk about after 60, the power of setting boundaries. Yes, that's right, boundaries. They're not just for teenagers or people with busy jobs. In fact, one of the most loving things you can do for yourself in this season of life is to decide what you will and will not accept. Because sometimes the feeling of being left out isn't about being ignored. It's about being taken for granted. Maybe it's the grown children who assume you're always available for errands or babysitting. Maybe it's friends who only call when they need something. Or maybe it's social events where you're invited but not really included. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors you choose to open on your terms. It's okay to say, I'd love to help, but I have something planned for myself that day. It's okay to speak up when you feel disrespected or when a conversation that makes you uncomfortable. You don't have to justify your feelings. You only need to honor them. There's strength in that, and people around you will feel it, not in a confrontational way, but in a way that says, this person knows their worth. This person respects themselves. And that respect becomes contagious. I spoke with a man named Walter, he's 77 now, who told me he used to always say yes to everything his kids asked. Pickups, drop-offs, favors, loans. He thought that was what love looked like, but eventually he started feeling like a ghost in his own life. I realized, he said, I wasn't being kind. I was being compliant. So he made a change, not a harsh one, just simple, kind boundaries. He started saying no when he needed to rest. He stopped answering every call immediately. And guess what? His kids respected him more for it. They started showing up for him in return. That's the magic of boundaries. They teach people how to treat you without you ever needing to raise your voice. And once you reclaim your voice, once you begin valuing yourself and creating space for your own joy, something else begins to shift. The world may not suddenly put you at the center, but you'll no longer be sitting at the edge, waiting for an invitation. Instead, you'll walk into every room, family dinners, doctor's offices, community meetings, even quiet afternoons at home, with the quiet confidence that you belong here. Not because someone said so, but because you know so. And that feeling is freedom. When you start honoring yourself, your voice, your time, your boundaries, something beautiful happens. You no longer wait to be invited into the conversation. You become the person who walks in with presence. Not loud, not demanding, just sure of your worth, sure of your space in the world, and sure that you're not done living, giving, or mattering. But even when you're doing all the right things, speaking up, setting boundaries, seeking connection, there may still be moments where the loneliness creeps in. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, it just means you're human. And that's why the next piece is perhaps the most powerful of all, learning to validate yourself without needing outside approval. We've grown up in a world that told us respect had to come from others, that our value was tied to productivity, youth, or how much we could give. But as you move through your 60s, 70s, and beyond, you start to realize something deeper, that the richest kind of respect is the one you give yourself. Self-respect isn't about ego. It's not about puffing your chest or pretending to have it all figured out. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, I've lived, I've lost, I've loved, and I still have something to offer. You don't need applause to be worthy. You don't need constant affirmation to keep going. What you need, what we all need, is to give ourselves credit for the miles we've already walked, for the lessons we've learned, for the wisdom we've earned through joy and heartbreak, laughter and loss. There's a kind of quiet power that comes from within when you stop looking to be picked and start choosing yourself. You sit at your own table. You bring your own stories. You write your own chapters, no matter how many pages are left. And yes, it's easy to forget that power when you're surrounded by a fast-moving, noisy world. But here's a little truth that might surprise you. Some of the most respected people don't chase attention. They radiate it. They carry a sense of peace, confidence, and calm that others are drawn to. Not because they're flashy or loud, but because they're whole. You can be one of those people. Start by doing things just for you, not for approval, not for likes, not for someone else's validation. Dress in a way that makes you feel good. Read books that spark your curiosity. Sing out loud while cooking dinner. Take up painting, even if the only person who will ever see your work is you. When you live for your own joy, you start to glow from the inside. And believe me, people notice. And speaking of people noticing, sometimes being seen again doesn't mean waiting for the world to shift. It means inviting others into your world. When's the last time you told someone your story? Really told it. Not just the facts, but the emotions, the lessons, the little moments that shaped who you are. You don't have to be a writer or a public speaker to share your story. All you need is a willing heart. Call up a friend and reminisce. Write a letter to your grandchildren, even if they won't read it right away. Record a voice memo of your favorite memory and send it to your kids. The point isn't how you share, it's that you share. Because when people hear your story, they don't just understand you better. They see you not as just a parent or grandparent or elder, but as a full, vibrant human being with thoughts, humor, history, and perspective. And if someone doesn't see that, that's okay. You're not here to convince everyone of your worth. You're here to live it, to own it. And when you do, the right people will always recognize it. There's one more thing I want to leave you with, and it might be the most important of all. Feeling respected, feeling valued, feeling seen. It's not just about how others treat you. It's about how you treat yourself, moment by moment. It's choosing to hold your head high when your joints ache. It's choosing to keep learning even when the tech frustrates you. It's choosing to smile at your reflection instead of picking it apart. It's choosing to show up to life even when it gets quieter, slower, or different than you expected. You've earned the right to be here, fully, boldly, joyfully. Don't let anyone, not even yourself, take that away. So if you've been feeling invisible lately, let this be your reminder. You are not. Your life is not fading. It is unfolding. And every day is still a chance to be heard, to be loved, to be respected, and most importantly, to respect yourself. You matter. You always have. And the world is better with you in it. If this message spoke to your heart today, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what resonated or just say hello. You never know who you might inspire just by speaking up. And if you found this helpful, please give the video a like, share it with someone who might need this reminder, and don't forget to subscribe. We're building a community here, one where every voice is valued and every story matters. Because at any age, and especially after 60, you deserve to feel seen. You deserve to feel heard. And you deserve to live a life filled with respect inside and out. Here's to living boldly, beautifully, and unapologetically at every stage of life. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. If this video gave you something to think about or made you smile, please give it a like, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom every week. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and join the conversation. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Until next time, stay wise, stay kind, and take care.